Hey, Wellness fam. It's Dr. Latoya Wells with another episode of Wellness Wednesday. I am so excited to be here with you all for this episode as we continue in our discussion on mental health. This past week or earlier this week, I had an opportunity to be a part of a radio show where I talked about mental health in men. And so I will be continuing that session or that content on next week. This week, we're going to be talking about mental health in the high functioning woman. What does that look like? Who is that? And what are some of the signs and symptoms and things that she deals with? Because I'm a high functioning woman. I know a lot of high functioning women, and many of us have this persona that we're just going to figure it out. And so we're going to talk about that person, that woman. We're going to talk about me tonight. We're going to talk about that woman tonight. But for those of you who don't know me, I am Dr. Latoya Wells. I'm a family nurse practitioner. I'm the owner of Wells Legacy Health and Wellness, a full service primary care practice in Altamont Springs, Florida. I have some exciting news. We are now offering direct primary care. So be on the lookout for more information regarding that, our fee structure and things of that nature. So what does that look like? Direct primary care is a subscription-based healthcare model where you pay a certain amount each month, and there's different levels, different tiers. And based on those tiers and the levels, you get certain access and things of that nature, but the care remains the same. And so if you're someone who does not have insurance, or if you have insurance, but you have a high deductible, then this may be the plan for you. Matter of fact, this is the plan for you. So stay tuned for more information on that. Again, we are in the office. We're accepting new patients. We're accepting insurance, and we are offering flexibility when it comes to access to care. So share the news. Let somebody know. Continue referring your friends and your family. I'm grateful for you all. So tonight we're going to be talking about mental health. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, as well as many different things. And May is my birthday month. I'm still celebrating. As I mentioned before, I'm celebrating every day of this month because I deserve it. I had an amazing birthday weekend, and I just want to say shout out to everyone who showed up, who wished me happy birthday, sent birthday blessings and love. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you. So what does it mean to be a high functioning woman? What does that mean? Who is that? So we're going to talk about that tonight. But I just want to kind of highlight some of the things that I dealt with. And if I haven't shared here on this platform before or during these broadcasts before, I'm a family nurse practitioner. I have my doctorate degree. I have been involved in many different things, and professionally as well as personally and socially. And there have been some times in my life where I've just had to figure it out. And this woman that we're talking about, she's strong, she's successful, and she's silently struggling. This is the woman when high functioning women are not okay, but they continue to tell themselves that they are okay. And so I just want to talk to her tonight. I want to speak to her tonight because I had to go through a transition period here lately. And over the last few months, I have been going through transition and change that has helped me to kind of refocus, recenter, and see things from a different perspective. And I had to take a step back from some things. So I wasn't as active on social media as I had previously done or been, but it was because I needed something in that moment to just kind of recenter, to refocus, and just make sure that I had my priorities straight, especially with all the change. So I worked full time for a large organization for almost 14 years. May 12th would have been my 14-year work anniversary. And in February, I received news that my position was being eliminated. March 5th was my last day with this company. And for years, I gave, and I gave to this organization and to this company. And in a matter of a 8-minute conversation, the career that I just knew that I was going to be with until I was ready to step away was ended for me. And so God does things, he got his timing, and he does things in his timing. And so I had an immediate sense of peace when I received that news, and I still have peace. there was just some things that I was dealing with that I had to really shift and to change and to figure out a new schedule and things of that nature. And so it's okay to step back. I just want to say this. But a high functioning woman is a woman who appears capable, productive, responsible, and quote unquote together on the outside while she's privately carrying emotional exhaustion, anxiety, sadness, trauma, being overwhelmed, and burnout on the inside. She may be succeeding at work, caring for her family, showing up for others, leading, serving, and meeting expectations. Wow. She's feeling depleted, disconnected, irritable, anxious, and emotionally numb. Am I talking to anybody? I'm going to raise my hand because I was there. I was there. I was giving, but on the inside, I was numb. I was anxious. I was depleted. And there's a saying that says you can't pour from an empty cup. Well, my cup was dry. It was dry. I had nothing to give, but yet I continued to show up for people. And at some points in my life, it was to the detriment of myself, meaning it was harmful for me. And I had to take a step back and I had to change and shift things. And so throughout this process and throughout the transitions that have happened over, I'd say the last 10, 12 years, maybe 13 years, it's taught me a lot about who I am, and it's helped me to prioritize. And listen, I had a big birthday on Saturday. I turned 50 years old. And at this big age, I don't want anything that's going to interrupt my peace. And so if it's going to disturb my peace, I don't want it. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to be involved in it. And that's just kind of where I am. And so I want to say this, that high functioning, I want to point this out. High functioning is not a diagnosis. It's not a medical diagnosis. So I'm not diagnosing anybody, but it's a pattern, right? It's a group of behaviors or activities or characteristics that women exhibit. And not saying that there aren't high functioning men, because there are, but tonight I'm speaking to the women. Next week, we'll talk about the men. It's a pattern. It describes how some women keep performing even when they're mentally and emotionally and physically struggling. Like in her body, she's struggling. Emotionally, she's struggling. Mentally, she's struggling. And I'm going to give you an example of this woman. We'll just say her name could be Michelle, or let's just say she's Latoya. Her name is Latoya, and she could be between the ages of 38 and 55 years old. She's a professional. She's a caregiver. She can be a mother, a wife, a daughter, a business owner, a woman in ministry, a ministry leader, a nurse, a teacher, an executive, or the go-to person in her family. Or she could carry or wear many of these hats. And there are some women that wear all of these hats and still continue to show up for everyone else. She's the woman that everyone calls because she always figures it out. She's reliable, she's organized, she's strong, she's dependable. She answers the emails, she makes the appointments, she remembers the birthday, she pays the bills, she encourages everyone else. And she still shows up looking polished. Like on the outside, she looks like she has it all together, but privately, she's tired. Sis is tired. I was there. I was tired. I wasn't sleeping well. My mind was racing. I was dealing with anxiety. I would feel guilty for resting. And if I'm being honest, in this new season that I'm in, one of the things that I struggled with over the last few months was resting and feeling guilty about resting. But that's what caused me to kind of take a step back, because while I was still dealing with things, and it wasn't because of my position being eliminated, because I promise you, I had peace and I still have a peace about that. It was me grieving the life that I had when it came to my profession. Now, I did have my practice on the side, so I was able to easily shift and move into that space full time. And that was a blessing, because not everybody has that, or not everybody is in that place. And so for me, it was a little different versus some of the other people who were impacted by this layoff, or this reduction in force, as they call it. And they didn't have anything else to move into. But out of obedience to God a couple years ago, I moved in that direction, and I'm grateful for that. So her mind is racing. She feels guilty for resting. She snaps at people she loves. She may cry in the car. She feels unseen. And because she's still functioning, people assume that she is fine. This is not fine. I wasn't fine. I was not okay. But I kept saying one of my favorite terms or phrases, I'm good, was, because now I'm like, no, I'm not good. No, I'm not okay. No, I'm not in a good space right now. I just need a minute. And you guys know I love to talk about statistics. And so tonight we're going to talk about some statistics as it relates to these women. And again, there's no national statistic about high functioning women, but there are some statistics around mental health and women. So we're going to talk about that because again, high function is not a medical diagnosis. And I would never diagnose someone here. I will give you the signs and symptoms of a diagnosis and tell you what to look for. But the data that we're going to talk about tonight is women when it comes to women and their mental health. And so it's important that we know that. According to statistics from 2024, 26.4% of women in the United States had a mental illness. 26.4% of women in the United States had a mental illness compared to 19.7% of men. Serious mental illnesses was also higher among women at 7.1% when compared to 4.8% in men. And one of the things we want to talk about is like, what are we dealing with? What are these women dealing with? According to statistics, 1 in 5 U.S. adult experiences anxiety, symptoms of anxiety, and 21.4% experience symptoms of depression. Women had higher rates than men. Major depression is more common among women. And there's a report that showed that 10.3% of adult females had major depressive episodes in 2021. And if you think back to 2021, we were in the middle of the pandemic. When we look at more recent data, those numbers have increased significantly. SAMHSA reported that in 2024, 61.5 million U.S. adults had a mental health illness. 61.5 million adults, and only 52.1% receive mental health treatment. So that leaves about 11.1 million people who still have not been treated or were not treated for mental health issues at the time. So what are some of the common mental health struggles that these women deal with? Number one is anxiety, right? Next one is depression, burnout, chronic stress, panic attacks, sleep problems, perfectionism. Ooh. If I'm not stepping on anybody else's toes, I'm stepping on my own toes. Caregiver fatigue, people pleasing. Am I talking to anybody else? Because I know I'm talking to me, and I know that I was dealing with these things, and some days I still am. Some days I still am dealing with them. And so it's so important that I am real with myself, right? And that I'm doing the things and taking the steps that I need to take in order to be able to move forward and to heal. So caregiver fatigue, people pleasing, imposter syndrome, woof, emotional eating and appetite changes, trauma responses, hormonal mood changes during menopause and perimenopause. And listen, if you've been watching Hey Sis, or if you've watched any of my videos to Hey Sis and all that, talking about perimenopause and menopause, think about a woman in this phase of life dealing with all of these other things. Think about it. If we're not managing these things, we're like that pressure cooker that's just waiting to explode. Substance abuse as coping mechanism, loneliness, even though they're surrounded by people. So what are some of the signs and symptoms? And we're going to break these down based on emotional, mental, and physical. So some of the emotional signs is feeling overwhelmed, crying in private, feeling numb or disconnected, irritability, feeling unappreciated, loss of joy and things that they normally would enjoy. And again, when I spoke on Monday about depression screening, and I may be jumping ahead a little bit, but that's okay. When you go to your healthcare provider, they're supposed to be asking you questions to screen you for depression at each visit. And so if they're not doing that, then you need to make sure that they're doing that, because and if there's healthcare providers, let me just rephrase that. If there's healthcare providers that are watching this video, we need to be screening all of our patients for depression at each encounter, right? And patients, be honest with your providers. These women, in terms of emotional symptoms, they experience constant guilt and feeling like rest must be earned. I can tell you there was something that I would do is I wouldn't rest until I've gotten all the things done on my to-do list. And I've been talking to one of my cousins a lot lately. We use this app to kind of leave each other video messages, and we're so much alike. And one of the things that she does is she'll set a timer for herself, and it helps her to stay focused on cleaning. And I find myself doing the same. And if I didn't beat that timer, then I would, have to start all over. But in that sense, I wasn't resting. I felt like if I didn't get all the things done, then I didn't deserve to rest because I still got all this stuff that I need to do. And so I'm working on that. It's a struggle, but I'm definitely working on that. What are some of the physical signs that these women are experiencing? Headaches, chest tightness, stomach problems, fatigue, muscle tension, sleep disturbances. They're not able to sleep, changes in their appetite, heart palpitations, brain fog. Now, have you heard me talk about HACEs and perimenopause? Then you already know that many of us who are in that phase of life are dealing with brain fog and many of these other symptoms already. So when we're adding all these other things on, yeah, I'm just going to leave that at. Behavioral signs, overworking. We throw ourselves into our work. I'm sorry, yeah. We throw ourselves into our work. We avoid calls and messages. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten a message, and it's not because I couldn't take the call. I just did not have the emotional or the mental capacity to take the call. And I would see the text messages come in, but it would just overwhelm me. And so I went from a person who was always responding to someone who forgot. I saw the text, I got busy, I forgot, or I just did not have the mental capacity to respond in that moment. Snapping at loved ones, canceling plans, just really not having not being in the mental space to even go or be around people. Overcommitting is another one. Ouch. Using alcohol, food, ouch. Shopping, or ouch. Scrolling to cope. Performing well publicly, but falling apart privately. I can definitely say I was there. So now what are some of the warning signs? We talked about some of the emotional and physical signs, but what are some of the warning signs that we need to know when she needs to seek immediate help, or if she says these things or shows these signs that we as family members and girlfriends need to, or partners or husbands or what have you, need to really be paying attention. Phrases like, I don't want to be here anymore. My family would be better off without me. Starts giving away belongings, sudden withdrawal from everything, talking about death and hopelessness, getting into risky behaviors when they never was that person, right? Not sleeping for days, more severe panic and anxiety attacks, feeling out of control, thoughts of harming themselves or harming someone else. These are all warning signs that we need to pay attention to. And what I want to say is, if there is an immediate danger, we want to call 911 or get that person to the nearest emergency room. And as you already know, we've talked about this many times, that the suicide and crisis lifeline is 988. You can text or call that number, and there'll be someone on the other end willing and ready to help. The key is getting the help. The key is knowing when you're in danger, knowing when you need to throw that lifeline. And many times, these high functioning women don't know when they need help. This weekend, I had several events. I had a whole weekend affair for my 50th. And I'm grateful for my family and my friends, and my circle, my village, that the dinner that I had at my house, I'm such a hostess, right? And when I'm hosting, I'm the hostess extraordinaire. I need to make sure everything is in place. I want to make sure everybody's okay, but yet I'm trying to entertain, my guests. And my aunts and my family and my village would not allow me. So much so that I had one aunt who kept her eye on me, and she's like, Toya, mate, what you doing? Where you food? Go sit down. What you need? I'll do this. We got this. And go and hang out with your friends. Go and do this. Da, da, da. So they were making sure that I was being here now. And that's the phrase that I learned in the corporate world, is that when you are being here now, your focus is on the activity in front of you, or the thing that's in front of you. And they saw that, and they were able to help me with that. And so as family and friends, we can pick up on things that these high functioning women can't. I can remember when I was going through a really bad situation and was dealing with depression. I was severely depressed, but I couldn't see it, and I would not admit that I was depressed. And I had a friend who called it out. She called me out. She was like, "No, what's the signs of depression?" If you had a patient, she had to put it in perspective of a patient. If you had a patient who was depressed, what are the signs that you would tell them to look for? And I began to name off all those things. And she said, "Friend, you're dealing with all of that. So you are dealing with depression." And that was the switch that flipped for me, that allowed me to be able to go and get help. So what are some treatment options? One is definitely going to see your primary care provider to get some screening. Many times there may be labs, because we may think it's depression, or anxiety, but it may be an underlying medical condition. And so being able to differentiate between the two, your primary care provider can definitely help you with that. Therapy or counseling. I say this all the time. During the pandemic, Jesus, Peloton, and therapy saved my life, because yeah, I worked from home, and my outlet was going out, hanging out with my village and my girls and my peeps. And that went away, and we couldn't hang out. We couldn't do the things. And yes, it was good. We had the virtual meetups and things of that nature, but it was just different. And so I had no outlet. I had no place to just kind of woo-saw, because we went from just my husband and I to a full house again. And it was a lot. Cognitive behavior therapy, trauma informed therapy. And there's so many different apps now that are available that we can use from the comfort of our home. Unless you want to go and sit on somebody's couch or in the office, you can. But many times they offer virtual. And so for those women who are high functioning, they have busy schedules and things of that nature, therapy may be one more thing that they have to do. But that one more thing could very much save their life. Medication, if it's appropriate. I'm not going to say I was against medication. I'm very sensitive to medication. And so it took some time for us to get a regimen that worked for me when I needed it. And then I was able to slowly wean off of it. But if you need medication to kind of help you manage your symptoms and to help you kind of cope and get through what you're going through, then by all means, that is an option. And I know many people are against medication, but there's so many other therapies that can be initiated that don't necessarily require medication. However, if medication is recommended in conjunction with several of the other things, then I'd say you have that conversation with your healthcare provider. A sleep assessment, just to see how well are you sleeping and where are the deficits and what can we do. Hormonal evaluation when relevant. Again, some of these symptoms that women can experience are also mimic perimenopause and menopausal symptoms, the brain fog, the sleep, all these things. And so we have to make sure we know what we're dealing with in order to develop a good plan of care for you. And stress management plans, like what do you do when you're stressed? How can you delegate? What are some of the things that you can do to kind of offload some of the things that's on your plate? How do we know when to say no and mean a sentence with no period, but no, right? It doesn't require an explanation. That took me some time to be able to just say, no, I can't go. No, I can't do this. No, I can't. No. Simple as that. No. But it seems harder than it definitely is. And support groups. There are so many ways that we could get the support that we need as women. And social media land is, you have to be careful with some of the groups, but there's so many groups out here that can definitely be helpful. Spiritual care, faith-based support. Listen, I tell you, prayer, Jesus, therapy, and Peloton saved my life. Exercise, Peloton. They need to sponsor me because, listen, I promise you, nutrition, hydration, and rest routines. Workplace boundaries. After my grandmother passed and I went back to work and I put boundaries in place for work-life balance that they say we are supposed to have, or they're, making things where there's a good work-life balance. The jury's still out on that. But for me, once I put those boundaries in place, things really changed and shifted for me because I was no longer available after hours, on the weekends, doing all the things, staying up till 3 and 4 in the morning, working on things. I just wasn't doing it anymore because it impacted my mental health so much that, again, it was almost to the detriment of me. And I refused to go back that way. And to live in that space any longer. And so things began to change. I was no longer being tapped on the shoulder for different projects. I was no longer being asked to be a part of this, or, if I applied for a promotion, I didn't get it. But you know what? It was all a setup for where I am now. And even though I couldn't see it then, and, things hurt, and, I took some things personally, I see clearly now. 2020 vision is, yeah. So when to seek help? Seek help when symptoms last more than 2 weeks. If they interfere with sleep, your relationships, work, your appetite, your mood, concentration, or daily functioning, it's time to get help. Also seek help when you keep saying, I'm fine, but your body, your emotions, your spirit are telling a different story. And our bodies would tell on us, right? Our bodies will definitely tell on us. There's this book, and I think I mentioned it before, The Body Keeps the Score. If you have not read that, I would definitely recommend. It's an Audible, and you can also buy the book. I listened to it on Audible, and it definitely helped to change and shift my perspective on some things. And so I want to say tonight in closing, sis, you do not have to earn rest by breaking down first. And many times, and I can only talk about me, my body broke down. It caused me to rest. It forced me to rest because I didn't listen to it. So there was times where I ended up in the bed with migraine headaches, palpitations, all the things, and my body just shut down because of constant stress. And then it took me longer to recover. And then I felt like I had more things that I had to do because I didn't listen. You don't have to be the strong one all the time. You don't have to be the one that everybody knows. Look, I don't know it all, and I don't want to know it all. You can be grateful and still tired. You can be successful and still need help. We don't have to carry it all. You can still love your family and need space, and still need space. Me and my trips to Costa Rica, that's me needing space. Me and my trips to the beach, that's me needing space. Me and my walks, that's me needing space and taking care of me holistically, physically, emotionally, spiritually, all the things, right? Physically. You can believe in God and still need therapy. I'm a proponent, and I'm telling you, I'm here for it because I've done it and I'm still doing the work. You can be high functioning and still deserve healing. Sis, functioning is not the goal. Wholeness is. And so if anything that I said tonight, if anything that I said, any point that I've mentioned tonight resonates with you, here's what I want you to do. DM me, because I have some resources. I have a resource that I want to provide to you. You don't have to put anything in the chat. You can give me a thumbs up or whatever. Matter of fact, if anything that resonated, put me in the comment. And if you would like, if you put me in the comment, I have a resource that I want to share with you. Sis, our mental health is so important. Many of us are the backbones of our families, and for generations, the women have been the backbone of the family. And we no longer have to carry all of that. Me being married, I felt like just because of my upbringing and childhood and different things that I experienced, being such an independent, ultra independent woman, I don't need a man. Well, I need my man, okay? I need him because he helps me out a whole lot. And I'm grateful to him every single day. But there are women who feel that they don't need a man, or they don't need any help, or they don't need anybody. I need my people because they help me stay grounded, and they support me, and they help me when they see that I'm overwhelmed and that I'm doing too much. Girl, go sit down. Like my aunt, go sit your tail down. Like she told me this past Sunday. So as we close, sis, if you are in this space where anything that I said tonight resonated with you, I want you to reach out. You can DM me, or you can contact me on my business line at 321-306-6755. This is Dr. Latoya Wells with Wells Legacy Health and Wellness. And I want to make sure that I am helping you to create a legacy of good health. And since we can only do that if we're mentally stable, sound, and in good health mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, holistically. Stay safe and be well. This is Dr. Latoya Wells. And until next time, we'll talk soon. Bye.